Steve.
How you doing?
All right, how are you?
Good. So we got a caucus after this caucus.
Yep.
That's a little strange, a 12:30 caucus if we're going in at 12:30.
Well, it wouldn't be us if it weren't strange, right, Steve?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Good morning. Just wanted to let you all know that we are live on YouTube.
How are you, Christina?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Tom has made up a story this morning, something about having a baby or something. I don't know. I mean, I've heard of excuses before, but that's a good one.
I got that text early this AM as well.
Yeah.
He timed it this way.
Yeah. We'll have to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I'm going to start the recording.
He just wants us to know how valuable he is. They don't-
Morning.
Hey, George.
Hey, John. Good morning, buddy.
Doing,
Yes.
Christina, are you good to go?
Ready.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. I welcome you to the June 7th, 2021 Finance, Revenue, and Bonding Committee to adopt the revenue estimates for the biennium budget. I will hereby convene the meeting and ask my co-chair, Senator Fonfara, if he has any opening remarks.
I don't. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Any remarks from our friends, the ranking members, Representative Cheeseman or Senator Martin?
No, I just, again, the perpetual refrain, it would have been nice to have seen this earlier, but this is the way the process works. So I thank you, Chair Scanlon.
Thank you, Representative. Senator Martin?
I think I had a text from him. I think he's going to be joining later.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, good morning again to everybody. This is my first time doing this meeting, and it's been an exciting few days for me to be a part of this process. And I agree with Representative Cheeseman. I wish we would have had some of this sooner, but I think what we have in front of us represents a very good revenue package, and one that I think meets the moment in Connecticut, both by ensuring that we're not doing anything to increase taxes on the people of Connecticut. We're in fact lowering taxes to a great extent on many people, including some of those who need tax relief the most and will benefit from the most from this. And that's something that I had set out to do alongside Senator Fonfara earlier in this committee. And I hope it's something that all of us will agree to do together today as Democrats and Republicans in light of the last 16 months that all of us have experienced here in Connecticut. And I think we've put together a package that I'm proud of, and I think will help the state of Connecticut recover from this great crisis in a way that just keeps the progress going that we seem to be experiencing here with new revenue. I mean, even in the last month since our April consensus, the revenue continues to come in. And I think that that's a good thing and bodes well for us, knock on wood, for the future here after many years of not seeing that. And this budget, I believe, this revenue package in particular, will help us continue that progress. So with that, I'd ask for a motion to adopt the revenue estimates.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Senator Fonfara. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Representative Cheeseman. Any discussion?
I'm trying to raise my hand.
I can just call on you, Representative Cheeseman.
All right, thank you. Yes, and I want to thank everyone for all the hard work that's gone into this. I will commend the exclusion of some of the what I considered, I won't use the pejorative term crazy, but perhaps excessive tax increases in the earlier part of the budget. This did incorporate a number of our priorities: the R&D tax credit, the IRA exemption, some of the other the admissions tax. There are some things that give me great concern. I see the extension of the corporation tax surcharge, that we continue to delay the gap funding. I would hope at some point when we have the revenue, which seems to be strong, we're going to implement that, because I think that's important to operate fiscally in a fiscally responsible manner. And I think this tax package is a no tax increase package because of, again, I hesitate to use the word gimmick, certain items that will be moved outside. Having said all that, I will be a yes today, because I do think we have to bear in mind we can't increase the burden on our Connecticut residents, and at the very least, the federal funds buy us some time to ensure that our robust revenue stream remains, and also to implement some of the good recommendations from the grant panel. And I know that's the spending side, but I do think we have to look very carefully at how we allocate our state dollars and find the best ways to spend them responsibly. So that's my spiel on this package today. Thank you, Chair Scanlon.
Thank you, Representative, and thank you for your support. Something I had said to you and many others early on was that my hope would be that we could try to get to bipartisan consensus on this. I was really proud of the budget in 2017. I think it's one of the highlights of my time here in this job. And to the extent that we can try to do that again, I think is a good thing for not just this committee, but obviously to the state of Connecticut. Representative Piscopo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And our ranking member hit on it real quickly. It's the one stickler I still have revenue package, that corporate surcharge. And I'm sorry I haven't had time to really go over the document in detail. Is there just a figure for what the revenue estimate is on that surcharge?
Yes, Representative. That surcharge is, just finding it here in my notes. One moment. So it's extends the 10% surcharge. I think what's important to know is there's a distinction between what was passed in our committee versus this, which is that in our committee, we permanently extended it, whereas this is just another temporary extension of this for 2 years. This surcharge has been on the books, my understanding, since the REL administration. And the distinction, I think, is an important one between making it permanent and maintaining it for 2 more years.
Is it permanent? Is there a 10% surcharge in the future documents as corporations go over their tax obligations to the state, or is it an addition?
Right now, Representative, it's only reflected in the 2 years as biennium, but in the spreadsheet that all of us have been shared in the out year of 24, it is not, it's at 0, meaning it's not reflected to continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And do you have a quick, does OFA or do you have a number on that surcharge? What it?
Yeah, it'll bring in $130 million over the biennium, so 80 in year 22 and 50 in year 23.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Meskers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of comments and observations. I will, of course, be supporting the revenue estimates. I think my deepest concern on the revenue estimates goes back to Representative Cheeseman's commentary related to the corporate tax, that surcharge. In the event we're ever going to extend that, I am going to vociferously advocate that there be a waiver of the first 5 years of any corporate capital formation. We're looking at capital formation for entrepreneurs, for drug companies, research. While the capital is waiting to be deployed, I think the surcharge makes no sense in terms of we're looking at it increasing investment and employment in the state. So I don't want to discourage that. So to the extent that capital is parked in an account and not used, we can have that conversation about levying a tax on capital, although I'm, again, equally concerned about that. So I'm concerned that we're continuing that. I'd like to see us deal with that going forward. I think in going forward in our budgetary process, I want to see a more aggressive dynamic scoring on our revenue estimates in terms of its impact on tax collection and its impact on the growth of the state. You know, I noticed the revenue, which and ultimately the improved revenue seems to be a function of both federal aid and the stock market performance over the last 2 years. So I think my focus, and I think the focus of the committee, has to be on the employment levels, job growth, et cetera. And I think we have to be very careful that when we levy our revenue assessments and look at things, that we are improving the job prospects of our most vulnerable residents. But you can count on my support. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I would just say, we shouldn't sell ourselves too short here. The federal revenue certainly does help a lot, and Wall Street's gains certainly help us as well. But revenue growth is up across all spectrums in Connecticut. And for me, a lot of that, can be seen as a really good sign that it's not just one sector of our economy that's performing. It's not just because we have the federal money. We're seeing growth everywhere, and hopefully that's a harbinger for the growth we're going to see in Connecticut that is long overdue, as you know, and as I know. Any further questions? Senator Wong.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Trying to unmute here. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak on this significant bonding package. I do want to raise my frustration in regards to the process as well as the timing. Getting this package just under 12 hours and having a chance to review it. And I want to thank the OLR, the Office of Legislative Research, and as well as Office of Fiscal Analysis to be able to provide the critical analysis and concerns that we have. I do have some significant concerns that I'm just trying to vet through, but that's unfortunately, as people have said earlier, that is part of the process that I think is frustrating and flawed. That being said, as much as I have concerns, I want to acknowledge that that many of the onerous tax that have been proposed in past revenue packages in this committee have been removed. and that there are considerations to voices of people that do not want additional tax burden placed upon them. So I'm appreciative of leadership to acknowledge that. But I'm also sensitive to the fact that even though it may not be part of this revenue package, we do have other revenue sources that are in essence taxes that will be raised by this committee and in this General Assembly that is not duly noted, such as the mileage tax on our trucks, and also the anticipated potential revenue from gambling and marijuana. Again, the idea of a no tax budget sounds wonderful, but the reality and devil is in the details that there are taxes. There are additional burdens placed upon people. And fair as it may be, maybe they're reasonable, maybe they're not. But the idea of touting a no tax budget when later this afternoon we're going to contemplate a mileage tax on trucks is another inconsistency that I have trouble with. That being said, I said, as I have many concerns, but that being said, I will vote for this as a acknowledgement of the leadership's voice, hearing the voice of people in the community, and that I hope continually we will be able to work together in trying to resolve these issues. And I hope that in future sessions, we'll be able to meet in person and not go through these kind of Zoom meetings that somewhat creates a detached connection with all of our colleagues and the critical debate that's necessary. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the entire leadership in facilitating this package.
Thank you, Senator. And I am for sure looking forward to gathering in person. One of the cooler parts of being finance chair, I can imagine, is being able to chair a meeting in those big rooms and see everybody together and work on that. And looking forward to having that experience in the future. I would just say, Senator, the gaming compact is reflected in this bill. The two other items that you mentioned are not, because their passage is certainly not assured during this session. And I think we may take up some of those bills at some point in the last 3 days, or we might not, I don't know. But gaming is something we did pass, and therefore it's reflected in this package. So I just, for the record, want to put that out there.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. And this is a great example that in our quick read of all the details and the multiple pages, you're going to miss things. And this is a great example that important issues that we are rushed to cast a vote on can be missed. And usually we have deliberative sessions where many voices, public hearing where people's voices are heard on these issues. This is a great example that indeed, I thank you for that clarification on the gambling revenue being included, but in my quick read in less than 12 hours of trying to process such an important and significant package, it is my frustration with the process and with the timing. That being said, I'm not going to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I acknowledge that many improvements were made on this. I will be supporting this as a factor of recognizing that the changes were made. And I want to thank and compliment the chairs in working with the ranking members and acknowledging and hearing the voice of people. But you just cited a great example where many things could be missed in such quick and hastily done process. It's not ideal. Obviously, we're in unusual times. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Nuccio, followed by Representative Carney, then Representative Butler.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Thriving. Quick question. I have actually probably not a quick question. I have a few questions on this. And I too want to echo what everybody else is saying. I'm grateful that a lot of the stuff that was in the original package is not here. I'm a little dismayed at trying to review a package this big with such little time. I'm a financial analyst and accountant by nature, and going through this at such a high level is a little discerning. There's a couple of things on here that I just was hoping maybe you could give me some detail on. Looking through this package on the adjust the capital base tax method, we're delaying until 2024, the beginning of scheduled incremental reductions to rates, and delay the full repeal of the tax until 2028. Can you just give me a little bit of background on what exactly that is and who it will be impacting?
Sure. So in Connecticut, there are basically two ways that your corporate tax liability can be calculated. You can either do it through your net income, or you can do it through the capital-based tax method. And the distinction between those two is that for net income, you have to have income, right? And so there's some corporations and businesses that don't have income in a given year. And that's why we created the capital-based tax method, which basically creates a mill rate through which your company's value is determined if you don't actually make enough money to pay taxes. That policy back in 2019 was scheduled to be eliminated over the course of 4 years. And what this policy change does is it gets rid of it at a slower pace of 8 years versus 4 years. So there will continue to be that differential there, but 8 years from now, in 2028, there will only be one way in Connecticut to assess your tax liability.
And that would be the net income or the
Yes.
capital base? Okay, so we would
That's
go to the
correct.
net income at that point.
Yep.
Okay, and then the business tax surcharge, I know we're extending that out. We've had it since, Rel, do you have, what was the sunset date supposed to be this year or next year?
Recording in progress.
I don't know what the sunset date was supposed to be. It continues to change, and we continue to extend it. And I think in the past, there may be, I can't speak to past budgets really off the top of my head, but this continues a extension as we have done in most budgets in the last few years since the Rel administration.
So I'm going to agree with Representative Meskers here. We tend to do that. Where is Meskers? I'm gonna agree with him on this $80 million in the first year and $50 million in the next year. Looking at this as a job creating source, if we can find, if not that we have the time to negotiate it now, but if we could find a way to be able to reduce that and fund that, I think it would help us from a job creation perspective. So I'm a little dismayed that we keep pushing that out. And then can you give me a little bit of background on the implementation of the tax amnesty program? There wasn't a whole lot in the notes, and I'm struggling trying to find where I can get the background on that.
Yeah, basically, my understanding is that every few years, Connecticut basically says to the taxpayers, hey, it's been a tough time. My understanding is we did this after the Great Recession. So we're going to sort of look the other way. And if you want to catch up on your taxes and pay us what we're owed, we will charge you at 75% versus 100% in terms of the penalties and interest. And like I said, we've done it from time to time in the aftermath of a great crisis. And boy, if we just haven't lived through a great crisis, I don't know what it was. So we're doing another tax amnesty program. And that's what's reflected here in this budget.
Okay, so that's just the penalties and interest portion of it, not the actual owed tax?
That is correct.
And the reason we're taking that as a gain here is that we're saying we wouldn't have received it had we not done this.
Yeah, if we weren't incentivizing people to sort of come out of the shadows and make good on their bill, then we wouldn't have got that revenue, and that's what the revenue gain is all about.
Do we know how many people, when we've offered this in the past, have actually capitalized on it, and what percentage of past taxes have been brought forward?
I do not know that off the top of my head.
Okay. And then from the Creates revenue, the Creates report, I've been trying to go through that, in all of our spare time. It's a rather large document, but do we know why we're going so lean on implementing the policies in that? Of the 600 million that were offered up, we're looking at $40 million 2 years out from now.
I don't know the answer to that, other than the fact that this is what Commissioner Boughton and his team feel like they need in order to actually implement that program, and that's the position of the administration. So I assume that they've found a way to get done what they want to get done with that 40 million.
Okay. And then I think the last question that I have on here is the delaying of GAP. By pushing this out, do you know where the wall is on that, when we're going to hit it, and how much we've delayed thus far? What's going to be due when we hit the wall?
I don't know, Representative. It's a fair question, and I will get the answer to that before we adopt this on the floor today. If you want to ask me again in a few hours, if in fact we do this in a few hours, I'll have an answer for you.
You can count on that question, Chairman. So that'd be very good. I appreciate that.
Okay.
And think overall, now, oh, I'm sorry, if or when the marijuana bill gets called and that revenue comes in, is that going to then be, and it's obviously going to be in addition to this revenue package, at that time, is there an opportunity then to review things like the capital gains tax and other such stuff that may be an offset from that revenue? Or is that revenue somehow going to, how is it going to play in?
Representative, I believe you're asking me, is there an intention to decrease other taxes once revenue comes in from marijuana? Is that the question you're asking me?
I'm asking if that's a hope and a possibility.
Well, yeah, I personally am a big believer in trickle up economics, and I want to cut taxes for the middle class and the working poor. And this budget certainly does that in the form of the highest EITC we've ever had at 32%. And not in this package, but in the actual budget language, there'll be language in there about the child tax credit that all of you are probably familiar with being my priority. And Senator Funfar and I both share those priorities. So I'm not sure that the capital gains tax would be the one that we would contemplate decreasing if there is revenue. All I would say again is two things. Number one, we don't know if marijuana is going to pass. I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think anybody really knows. But if it does pass, I will be very clear that in the bill as constituted right now, 75% of the money is going to go to equity and 25% will go to prevention. So over the course of 3 years. So I think the only money we'll be getting from the general fund is in the first or second year of that bill. And it's a very, very small amount of money. So I think there's a sort of common understanding out there that we're going to get all this money from marijuana and it's going to help our general fund. That is not the case under the bill as written, as far as I know it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I will say, I understand the whole ARPA thing, and I understand everybody is using that money to help offset their budgets and that, but I have a pretty hard time justifying the $1.8 billion when there's no clear path to year 3, and how we're gonna be able to pay for the funding that we're putting in here now, just from a straight, literally debits and credits accounting perspective. I struggle with not understanding what happens in 2024 when all that money goes away and what that deficit is going to be. I'm a big believer of one-time revenue is one-time expenses. And I think there was a lot of opportunity to do that here in the state. So I'm a little dismayed with the amount of ARPA money that we're using to float operating expenses. So I don't know where I am yet. I'm hoping you don't pull a vote in the next 30 seconds because you're probably going to be sitting here waiting for me going back and forth. But I'm listening to what everybody else has to say. And I guess that's my high and low of this right now.
Thank you, Representative. And I understand that concern. And I would just say two things for what it's worth to you to consider. Number one, we still have the highest rainy day fund in the history of the state at $3.5 billion. We are at cap at that, meaning that we are making close to $1 million or $1 billion, excuse me, of a payment into our CSRS and TERS pension fund later this year, given the fact that we have reached our cap in the rainy day fund. We don't touch the rainy day fund here. So that $3.5 billion is still intact and available for us should 2024 be difficult. Number two is that by every measurable indicator, our revenue is continuing to grow at unprecedented, at least in the recent history of Connecticut rates here. And that is reflected with April consensus, that is reflected in the numbers that have come in since April consensus. And I think if you talk to OFA, they continue to feel confident that that trend will continue at least for some time into the biennium. So hopefully that number in the out year will continue to come down. Obviously, a lot of that depends on what happens in our world, and none of us can predict that today. But with a rainy day fund at capacity and with revenue trends continuing to look good, I feel pretty good personally about that out year, but we will address that, of course, in another time in this committee. But for now, just hoping to share that information with you. Representative Carney, followed by Representative Butler.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just have a few questions based on the policy document that was sent over to us. The first is regarding the change in taxation to IRAs. I was just hoping you could explain that, if that's identical to how we treat pensions and 401ks.
Thank you, Representative. It's a good question. So as some of the committee remember that was here, we changed a few years ago the tax on pensions and annuities, but the IRAs were not included in that. And some of our constituents came to us and said, hey, can we change this? I want to give a shout out to the Vice Chair, Lenny Cavros-DeGraw, who has been spearheading this change and has brought this to us and had a bill before us. So she deserves a lot of credit for getting this in the package. Where we're at right now, Representative, is that 42% of that income is non-taxable on the pension and annuity side, and that grows annually by 14%, meaning next year will be 56%. Our plan on the IRAs starts in year 24, and it's a 25% phase-in year to year, meaning it'll take us 4 years to get that 100% fully ineligible. So it's a different speed and different calculation than the other schedule, but it still gets us over a certain period of time to 100%.
Yeah, I actually proposed this a couple of years ago. Is there any consideration to the fact that I know this has been brought up as well, that a single filer is able, who's below 75,000 in income, is able to take advantage of this, while a joint filer, married filing jointly, is only able to take advantage of this at $100,000 or less of income.
It mirrors, and Representative, due credit to you. You, sir, have of course been working on this, and it mirrors the change that you also have been working on that we recently made to lower that income level. Is that what you're asking?
Okay. No. My question is, I believe that the folks can take advantage of this should they make less than 75,000. It's a cliff. So if you make above that, you can't take advantage of this. I guess you can't take advantage of it at all. But if you're married filing jointly, it's $100,000 or less, as opposed to being $150,000. So I'm wondering if that change was made.
Yes.
See the differences, the disparity there?
Yes, I do. Yes.
I know Representative Winkler, I think, has brought this up before.
Yes.
I'm just curious if that was taken into consideration or is in this proposal.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I mean, I think this is a good change. You know, I would prefer that. I mean, an IRA and a pension, a lot of times people take their pensions and move them into IRAs. So I think, you know, it'd be better if they were just treated the same right off the bat. I understand why they're not. Hopefully, you know, the budget will be okay in a couple of years and this won't get delayed. My other question is regarding the vaping taxation. I saw in the document I was sent that this reduction in taxation is based on the finance proposal regarding flavored vaping. I'm just curious what exactly that meant.
What it means, Representative, is that there was the bill passed by Public Health was a wider scale ban on all flavored tobacco, which would have included menthol cigarettes and other products. We amended that bill in committee to just reflect a ban on flavored vape products, meaning that it does not include menthol cigarettes or other flavored tobacco products, only flavored vaping.
Okay. See, I'm a little concerned about that because, I mean, I would argue. I mean, first of all, I would argue that should have probably gone through Public Health as opposed to our committee. I mean, I know it did go through Public Health, but it wasn't ultimately voted on the floor. Now it's sort of a finance thing, and menthol cigarettes are arguably a heck of a lot worse than flavored vaping. I'm not thrilled about that section of the language or of this particular revenue package. But I guess it is what it is. I guess further concerns though, and I'm just wondering if it was taken into consideration. Obviously, we've kind of seen because of the pandemic, we've seen extended unemployment benefits. We still have high unemployment. One could argue, we're seeing inflation now. I mean, I think we are, and additional inflation. coming. We still have, I believe we still have an eviction moratorium. I mean, when all of this stuff kind of comes to a head, which I think it will soon, are the revenue estimates taking that, all of that into consideration?
I'm not sure, I guess, Representative, I'm understanding what you're asking me
Okay.
for. Are you saying, you know, when the eviction moratorium ends, is that what you're asking me? I don't.
Well, my concern is, I mean, I think right now we're kind of seeing higher revenue because, I mean, folks are getting stimulus checks, folks are getting, you know, pretty generous unemployment benefits, despite the fact that we still have high unemployment. I think we're seeing inflation right now. We still have an eviction moratorium. So folks, I mean, I think there's a large portion of our population that may not be spending money on things they normally would, which is why I think some of these things like sales tax revenue is going up. I mean, I could be wrong. It's just kind of the way I see it. So I'm a little concerned that when all of these benefits go away, that some of our revenue may change drastically. I mean, I could be wrong. We could still see higher than in the past revenue estimates. So I'm just wondering if you've taken into consideration the changes that could occur sooner rather than later to our state and our country as we get out of the pandemic and life returns to normal. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do, Representative, and you know, as you know, the way that we balance the budget in this state and on this committee is we look at what we have and we balance it based on the facts in front of us, and that's really based on the consensus revenue. Those projections are given to us by OFA, and we have to make policy decisions with that premise. And with that premise, we know what I talked about earlier, which is that tax collection and revenue is outpacing our latest projections and continues to do that. So that's what we're working with here. That's how we adjust and balance these budgets. And if things change in the world for the better or the worse, you know, we respond accordingly. But we have one choice, and that's to use April consensus as the balance of this, and that's what we've done here.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it. I guess I'm with Representative Nuccio. I'm going to consider how I'm going to vote on this. It's not necessarily reflective of how I'm going to vote on the budget package as a whole. I'd like to see, certainly like to see the spending side, but I appreciate your responses, and I'm sure we'll be talking further as this comes out on the floor. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Butler, followed by Representative Farrar.
Thank you, Chairman Scanlon. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for actually having an opportunity this morning to speak on this. I too would like to see all this information earlier, but I understand how the House, Senate, and the governor's office had to come together. I'm very thankful that we do have it today versus looking at special session. And so thank you very much for bringing it before us today. Most of my questions on the larger line items have already been answered to my satisfaction. I just have a couple of questions about line items that I just need a little bit more clarity on. And I'm looking at document the June 7th FRB final spreadsheet. And there's a line item talking about restoring the R&D tax credit to 70% of liability. In a fiscal year 22, it's looking like a reduction of 6.5, followed by 17.2, followed by 21.5. Could you kind of explain that line item and the trend?
Yes, sir. So in 2019, in the 2019 budget, we reduced the R&D tax credit from 70% to 50%. This budget restores that, but it phases it in over a 2-year cycle. So first from 50 to 60, and then from 60 to 70. In the out year, why it's at 21.5 is because that will be when it's fully phased in at 70% again. And our companies, God willing, are doing good R&D here in Connecticut and taking full advantage of this 70% tax credit.
Okay, great. Thank you for the explanation. The next couple of lines are the lines regarding admissions and dues, reduction of 11 million across the board for a few years, and as well as the line item below it, the adjustment to admissions tax. Could you explain those? They look like they're kind of parallel, so I'm sure they'll have an explanation that's probably married.
So in this state, we have an admissions tax, and it's a very balkanized tax. Some of you who have been on this committee for a while know that there's different tax rates for different venues, and every year there's new venues that come to us and say, hey, wait a minute, we want the tax rate that those guys are paying. John and I felt, Senator Fonfara and I felt pretty strongly that not only is that an annoying thing that we have to deal with all the time, and certainly annoying for the taxpayers, but that it'd be better, especially given that all these venues, whether they're music halls, whether they're stadiums, whether they're comedy clubs, have just really had a tough time during COVID because they haven't been able to do their thing. One way that we can incentivize arts and culture and sports in the state is to just get rid of that tax totally. So what this change does is it eliminates the admissions tax on those venues. It still keeps the movie theater tax for admissions. So every time you go to the movie, you're still going to pay the admissions tax when you start going to the movies again. But if you're going to a concert or a Dave Chappelle show or a Yard Goats game, the admissions tax will not be factored into the price of admissions, which hopefully will help them lower the price of those things so that more of us can go and enjoy baseball games, concerts, and the like.
Well, thank you. I'm sure that is a welcome addition to the venues in our state, and will hopefully be a part of helping us open up those venues to actually for entertainment, because this state is in dire need of some entertainment. The last question I have, Mr. Chairman, is regarding the miscellaneous line item that it speaks to 40 million in fiscal year 22, 36 in fiscal year 23, and back to 40 in the following fiscal year. Whenever I see miscellaneous line items to that extent of funding, just begs to ask me what makes up that line item.
It's a good question, Representative. I'll get an answer for you on that, okay?
Okay, that's fine. And again, I just want to thank all the folks who worked on this. I've been on the Finance Committee for a long time, and this is probably by far the most comfortable revenue package that I've ever actually voted in favor of. So I'll be supporting this. And thank you for all your hard work and everybody who worked on this.
Thank you, Representative. Appreciate that. Representative Ferrara.
Thanks, Chairman. Just a quick question, if you're willing to explain how the tourism fund was handled in the document we received. I just wanted to understand what the changes were.
Yeah, so the main primary funder of the tourism fund, as you probably know, Representative, is the hotel tax. And obviously we didn't have a ton of people staying in hotels during COVID. So we want to make sure that that arts and culture fund that tourism fund supports is held whole. And this change ensures that the fund is solvent. So it makes sure that the fund is not in deficit, which then will help our, the grants and support that this thing, that this thing contributes to.
Okay, so that's reflective in the appropriation side as well, I assume.
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for walking through this. I think, as you noted, we have a tremendous rainy day fund to look forward to, the tremendous federal support. And I know, as you mentioned, Speaker, your focus on ensuring that we're doing our best to provide relief to our lowest income families is the priority in this moment. I certainly know that we've heard tremendous feedback on really changing our regressive tax structure. And I hope that on this committee, we'll continue to look at that moving forward, since it is a part of how our policy is set up, and we can only do our best moving forward to ensure that we address that. So thank you, Chairman, and I appreciate your time and effort and all of the staff on this as well today.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Cheeseman for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick comment, and I know that we're not voting on this today, but I did want to put on the record in our 6443, which passed out of this committee, we did have something called the Equitable Investment Fund. And I wanted to make the committee aware the minority leader has received an opinion from the Attorney General that this fund would in fact be deemed unconstitutional. So as we're looking at things going forward, I think we need to bear that in mind if we're creating mechanisms to allow how we dispense with new revenue. We had better make sure that we're doing it in a constitutional way. So thank you very much for indulging me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Any further comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Hello. Yeah, hi. I couldn't raise my hand. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I wanted to thank you for all your efforts on this. And I think this budget reflects priorities that are not necessarily monolithic in the sense of the Democrats, how some of us may not support taxes as enthusiastically as others do. I think this was a good effort at compromise, and I appreciate all the effort that went into it. And I'm happy that we're supporting those at the lower end of our economic spectrum and not necessarily at the expense of those on the better side. I like the balance that we see here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative. Senator Fonfara.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for all of your efforts in explaining everything today. And for me, this initiative is sort of a tale of two cities in that our formal obligation is to adopt estimates that we have the confidence that the revenues projections will meet the required amounts to fund the budget and do that in balance. And we are, and our vote today will reflect that confidence, particularly with respect to the folks who behind the scenes do the most work in getting us to that, in particular OFA and OLR in supporting us in getting to the point we are today. On the other side of it, the document, while we're not voting on policy priorities, that discussion will take place following this, but it does reflect our policy priorities. And that's the disappointment for me, is that we have not included in revenue a sustained commitment to address underserved communities and income inequality. In addition to that, in growing our economy in terms of venture capital and reforming our very regressive property tax system. And irrespective of whatever pronouncements by others today, the initiative to address those issues in a sustained way, in a way that would not even move the needle in terms of those that would be asked to contribute a little bit more to do those things. It's a disappointment for me. That conversation and addressing that in more detail will happen at another time. But I wanted to say it was my hope, and I know others on the committee as well, besides me, including Chairman Scanlon, that we would have been able to take that step in a sustained way. There's certainly revenues in this document that we're voting estimates on today that will help. And the federal dollars go a long way in doing that, as well as the Appropriations Committee's general fund contributions. But those are temporary at best, and we know how well we can make a promise today and disregard it tomorrow. We have a horrible track record in that regard. And I fear the same will be true as the days and the weeks and frankly years go by, and all the conversations and the marches and the statements and the flag waving and the street painting that has gone on over the last year will be in the rearview mirror. The circumstances in those communities won't have changed, but maybe the vocal nature of it will. So I wanted to share that with the committee. Obviously, who doesn't celebrate the opportunity to have a no tax increase budget, but on the other side of that, having the ability to say and do what we say is important. And unfortunately, that we have not reached that level. In terms of the document that we are not voting on now, this is simply estimates, the confidence that we have that the revenues will be raised to meet the budget obligations that we're going to be making. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Representative Hennessy.
My apologies for following Senator Fonfara. We're wrapping up, but and listening to his comments, I think there was little mention to the fact that we had a great opportunity to address the state of inequality in the state of Connecticut. That it's unfortunate that the federal funds are going into operation budgets. My thought had always been that we put that money towards infrastructure to raising jobs. And, statement always is that, we've had so many deficits and that absolutely is not a time to raise taxes when we're in deficit. So we're in surplus now, and this is definitely not a time to raise taxes to have a more equitable tax structure. And I just have to mention that if that's the case, when is the appropriate time to address the inequities between the very wealthy in Connecticut and the very poor? And this was an opportunity missed as far as I'm concerned. But I, of course, will be supporting the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Meskers for the second time.
Yes, I'm appreciative of all the commentaries. I think a thoughtful approach to how we want to achieve the goals, which is for growth and opportunity in the state. I know that'll give rise to very sizable debates, but I'd like to steer us in another direction. I noticed today as I open up that Christine Penn is hosting the meeting, and I'm under the understanding that Tom Spinella might be sitting around in a hospital today. I'm not sure if that's the case, but just to bring it to all of our attention is the people who labor to support us, and specifically Mr. Spinella and his efforts, is now awaiting his son or daughter. And I just want to bring a shout out to all of us, and I'm sure all of us supporting that acclamation for the incredible job he does, and wishing him the healthiest and best results today. And just I wanted to send our best wishes to him.
I will let Mr. Spinella break that monumentous news on his own to us at the time and manner of his choosing, but duly noted, Representative, and we're grateful for all of our staff here in this building each and every day, especially in this time. It's been difficult for them just as much as it's been difficult for us, if not more so. So thank you for pointing that out. Okay. Any further questions? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Motion has been made and seconded to adopt revenue estimates. Fonfara.
Yes. Fonfara votes yes.
Scanlon.
Representative Scanlon votes yes.
Try again.
Representative Scanlon votes yes.
Martin. Cheeseman.
Representative Cheeseman votes yes.
Miller. Moore. Cavros DeGraw.
Cavros DeGraw votes yes.
Meskers.
Representative Meskers votes yes.
Try again.
Representative Meskers votes yes.
Cabrera.
Senator Cabrera votes yes.
Casano. Cohen. Maroney.
Senator Cohen votes yes.
Maroney.
Maroney votes yes.
Needleman.
Needleman votes yes.
One more time.
Needleman votes yes.
Slap,
Senator Slapp votes yes.
Formica, Huang,
Senator Tony Huang votes yes.
Whitcuff, Barry,
Barry votes yes.
Senator Moore votes yes.
got it. Barry,
Rep.
go ahead,
Barry
Senator
votes
Formica.
yes.
Formica votes yes.
Yeah, sorry, I was late on the mute button too. Senator Whitcoast votes yes.
Got it. Boer,
Representative Boer votes yes.
Butler,
Representative Butler votes yes.
Chafee,
Rep. Chafee votes yes.
try again.
Representative Chafee votes yes.
Concepcion,
Representative Concepcion votes yes.
Doucette, Elliott, Farr,
Representative Farrar votes yes.
Paul, Hampton, Hennessy,
Representative Hennessy votes yes.
Lamar,
Representative Lamar votes yes.
Mashinsky,
Representative Mashinsky votes yes.
Paolillo,
Representative Paola votes yes.
Harris,
Representative Paris votes yes.
one more time.
Representative Paris votes yes.
Perone,
Representative Perone votes yes.
Phipps, Sanchez,
Representative Phipps votes yes.
got it. Sanchez,
Representative Sanchez votes yes.
Nuccio,
Sorry, Representative Nuccio, you said Nuccio, right?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Representative Nuccio votes, honestly, I don't even know at this point. I am gonna have to say no until I can understand it better. Sorry. I'm close to a yes, but no, sorry.
Santiago,
Representative Santiago votes yes.
Staffstrom,
Representative Staffstrom votes yes.
Wood, Carey,
Representative Wood votes yes.
try again.
Representative Wood votes yes.
Diogus,
It's not the end of the world, but no vote either, you know? What do you say? Hold on, John, I'm up.
Diogus, Carney,
Carney votes no.
Devlin, Claridis Detria,
Representative Devlin votes yes.
Representative Claridis Detria votes no.
Mastro Francesco,
Representative Mastro Francesco votes no.
Perillo, Piscopo,
Representative Piscopo votes yes.
Paletta,
Paletta votes no.
Wood, Terry, Yaccarino,
Yaccarino votes yes.
Zullo,
Hold over, Rep. Zullo votes yes.
Zupkis,
I'm sorry. Can I take that back? Rep. Zullo votes no. I apologize.
yes.
No, I have not. Thank you.
Rep. Zupkis votes no.
So I'm just missing Martin, Casano,
Senator Casano votes yes.
is that
Senator
Elliott? Oh, Senator Casano, I have you. You're good.
Senator Casano votes yes. Okay, thank you.
Elliott votes yes. Got me, Christina?
Got you. I got you. Paul, Diogus,
When I got in my house.
Hello. Rep Wood, I see you.
Yes, Rep Wood votes yes.
All right, we're good, Senator, or Representative Scanlon.
Madam Clerk, do you have me registered as a no?
I do.
All right, thank you very much.
Before we, Representative Perillo.
Perillo votes no. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Before we wrap up, we will leave the votes open until the start of the House session, which I think will convene momentarily. But before we wrap up, I would like to acknowledge and congratulate, since we're talking about babies, Representative Chafee and his wife welcomed a baby into the world. So if we can all give him a round of applause virtually, that would be great. One of our committee members. So congratulations, Brandon.
Thank you,
You're
Mr.
getting
Chairman.
more. You may be getting more sleep than we're getting up here, but hopefully we'll. Depends on the
I'm
child.
gonna wager on that.
With that, we'll hold the votes up until the House session begins. And thank you, everybody, this morning.
Thank you.
Christine, this is Senator Moore. I just want to make sure you've got my vote of yes.
I did get your vote, Senator Moore. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Christine, it's Representative Devlin with the same question. Did you get my vote?
I did get your vote, Representative Devlin.
Thank you so much for your help. Have a good day.
Thank you, you too.
Christine, it was just the one vote and you have it, right? For Meskers?
Yep, just the one vote, Representative.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Sorry.
hi, how are you?
Started, so the House, we can't take your vote. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.